Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhus Cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Yata Sarvani Bhutani Pratibhanti Stitani Cha Yatraivo Pashabam Yanti Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. So we are in the story of Leela. And again, her name is a pun. You know, the story is about the play of this world. And we have to remember that the word Leela in Sanskrit has the same dual meaning as the word play in English. The children go outside and they can play soccer, sport. Or I can go to Berkeley Repertory Theater and see a play, theatrical presentation. So Leela means both things as well. And we need to remember what are the three questions that this scripture endeavors to answer. The first, Koham, who am I? The second, what is this world? Third, how has it come about? Is it too breezy in here tonight?
Yes.
Uma, can you please flip the switch right behind you? Just right over your shoulder. Slip it down. That's fine. So, in this story, we have these characters, Leela and her husband Padma. He's a king, and they are deeply in love, or she's deeply in love with him. We haven't really heard how he feels about her yet. And she thinks to herself, I am so attached to my young, comely, rich husband. If he were to die before me, I'd be destroyed. It's okay if I die first. If he dies before me, I couldn't bear it. So, and again, this is a literary device. She does intense tapas to the goddess Saraswati. The goddess appears to her and says, I'm pleased with your austerities. You may have boons. So the first boon that Leela asks is, if my husband dies before me, don't let his soul leave the body. And second, when I want to talk to you, you come see me. So many years pass, and sure enough, King Padma dies. So instead of doing the funerary rites and cremating the corpse, Saraswati says, create a bed of flowers and put his body there. Then give me a jingle and I'll come talk to you. So she does that, and she's now asked the goddess to come. That's where we left off last week. Anyone remember what verse we're on?
14.
14. Can you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Yeah.
Can someone give me the
What
page number?
Page 33.
$14.
Yes, please.
Chittakasham chidakasham akasham cha tritiyakam dvabhyam shunyataram vidhi chidakasham varanane. There are the space of the mind, the space of consciousness, and thirdly the sky or space. Lovely lady, the space of consciousness is more void than the other two.
So we have Akasha, which means sky or space. We have Chitta Akasha, the space of the mind. What do we mean by that? Well, if you close your eyes and you have a visualization, that's taking place in the space of your mind. So imagine you're on a train. Say you're on a train traveling through India. You look out and you see the fields, maybe some mountains in the distance, and elephants. Open your eyes. So you created the space of the mind. When we have a dream, in the dream, your mind creates space. Now, Yoga Vasishtha uses one of my favorite terms for the self, Chidakash, the space of consciousness itself. What do we mean by this as a direct experience? We tune up the mind, make it very quiet, and have this radical reversal of our attention. And notice the knower. Look behind my eyes. Who am I? What is my essential nature? I can't find a thing called Jim, a person. What's there is Chid Akasha, the space of pure awareness. Now, Yoga Vasishtha has used the term shunyata. Is it shunya or shunyata? Which does he use? I forget.
It's shunya.
Voidness, yes, emptiness. So, what we mean here is, okay, we can say space is empty. There are things in space, but space itself is empty. We can say fundamentally the space of the mind is subtler, emptier than that. but the space of the self. Vast and empty. Now, it's a paradox because we have two words that we use to describe that. We can say shunyata, empty, void, vast, the great sky, space of consciousness itself. Yet, I experience it as full, purnam, full of me. It shines as I, aham, aham. It is bhava, being, sat, existence. So Yoga Vasishtha is not expounding the doctrine of the Shunyavadins, the scholiasts of the void. That's a school of Buddhism, which posits that there is no ultimate reality. Vedanta says, there is something real. Chidananda Rupa. I am of the form of bliss consciousness. Shivoham, Shivo. Don't believe the scripture. Don't believe me. In a quiet mind, with your attention introverted, notice the knower, subtler than space. Actually, physical space is an object of awareness. Subtler than the space of the mind. Of consciousness itself. Now, I forgot a piece in the intro. Leela says, where did he go? Where's my husband? And the goddess has answered with this teaching. What's this have to do with where Padma is? Let's find out. Next verse.
Tasmin nirastani sankalpa sthitimeshi chait sarvatmakam padam tattvam tvam tadapnosya samshayam. If you will attain fixity in that space of consciousness, having cast off all thoughts, you will then attain to that true principle or state, which is of the nature of the whole, without doubt.
Yes. So here is the summation of the teaching of yoga. We've been introduced to a word here. Here, the translator has translated it as thought, but the word used is sankalpa. Now, the Hindu scriptures do not say that the manifest world is created like a potter creates a pot. Potter takes some clay, some material, which is something other than the potter, makes a pot. No, the universe comes about as the sankalpa of the infinite. Sankalpa is a word that's almost impossible to translate. Thought, wish, will, intention. The law of sankalpa, by means of sankalpa, that which is imagined is grossified and seems to be an external, real object. It seems very philosophical and abstract. Let's see if we can give a life example. So close your eyes for a moment and imagine a mango. Nice and ripe, fragrant. Think about cutting it up in juicy fruit pieces. Now open your eyes. This is an imagination. This is just an image created in mind. What is the difference between the mango of your imagination, of your fancy, and the mango that you dream about? There's a similarity and there's a difference. If I dream that I'm in India and I'm getting a fresh mango by the fruit stand, then I wake up and I'm in Oakland and it's raining. So the mango of my dream was just imagination. But there was an additional element. First, I did not know I was imagining. I had what's called a Varana Shakti, veiling power, or a vritti. Then when my mind projected the mango, I thought it was real. So it is by means of the Lord's sankalpa that all this takes place. And because of our spiritual ignorance, like the dream, I think it's real. And what this verse is saying is, well, you're really experiencing it. But really, it is nothing but the play of consciousness. It is lila, the ground of being. Brahman is never touched or altered by. Never touched or altered by. You are Chidakash. Here's an interesting point. In the Hindu scriptures, we talk about the doctrine of reincarnation. The body dies, the subtle body leaves that physical body, it goes to a particular loka depending on its karmas, then at some point it's impelled back into a physical body. Actually, that's not what happens. We use that as a teaching in the beginning because it's helpful. The question I would ask you, do you incarnate into a dream? Well, it sure feels like it. When I'm in the dream, I have a dream body. I peep out as a locus of perception. And I have a dream ego. I think I am that dream body. There's a dream world. But am I in the dream, or is the dream in me? It feels like I'm in the dream, but actually it's sankalpa. So the mind has the power to create identification with a dream body and to see a dream world separate from me. Listen carefully. This world is no different. All this comes about by means of sankalpa. Now, the Lord does not dream the world at us and to us, but as us and through us. So I have a limited ability to participate in the creative process by means of my own sankalpa. Most of us do this unconsciously. It is just the force of our past maturity. But we've all had the experience of meeting people who experience the world and they have a totally different belief system than you or I. Isn't that true? They live in a different world. I was talking with a young man this week, and he's gone down what I think is the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. He doesn't want to get vaccinated because Fauci owns stock in this and big pharma that and the lobbyists here and it's all a ripoff. They're all lying to us. I don't know where he gets his information. But this is the world he lives in. And he was at one point sitting on my couch. We were having this discussion. This is months and months and months ago. And I said, stop. I don't live in your world. You live in a world of fear. I don't live in that world. I live in a world where God's in charge. I live in a world where grace functions. As the result of my yoga, that's the sankalpa that my mind creates. Now, he doesn't live very far away from me. Do we live in the same world? Yes and no. So, yes, the Lord is creating all this by means of his sankalpa. But you and I have an experience of this world based on our own deeply rooted belief system. we can change those beliefs. That's part of what yoga is about.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So let's say you believe in a conspiracy theory and you live in a fear, those are your sankalpas. Isn't that from God too? And then if you choose to make a shift and get on the yoga path, that's also God.
Yes, it's all God in the end. How do I know that? That's the fact. Look at the experience of what the world is. But there's no God out there who's saying, I don't like Priya, I don't like the way she does her hair, I'm going to make her miserable. There's no such God. You understand that? But if you have, well, let's look at just the fact of experience. One person, I think I want to get married. They go to their parents, find me a husband, find me a wife. They get together. It all works out. They are married for 50, 60 years. No real problems. Others of us, one unfortunate love affair after another. What's the difference? It's not bad luck. It's my unconscious stuff. Family of origin, issues. Call it sankalpa. So it's not my surfaced opinions. It's those deeply rooted things. And they are changeable. That's the good news. Through tapas, we can change.
Is that unconscious mind?
For most people, it's unconscious. If you meditate, one of the fruits of meditation is you make the unconscious conscious. You begin to know the content of your own mind. It takes an enormous amount of embarrassing humility to be willing to sit in meditation and see fear come up, to see anger come up, all those hurt feelings from childhood. We metaphorically talk about remembering our past incarnations. Well, we got plenty of material to remember just in this one. Let's see. And the willingness to be honest. So when I have an interaction with another human being, frequently I'll work with people and they'll have an issue at work. Oh, I can't get along with my boss. They're a terrible manager. I think it's time for me to move on to another job. And then a year, 2 years later, oh, there's just something wrong with this boss. Bad luck. But what is happening is my own unconscious tendencies are coming up. So what do? You can run, but you can't hide. The yogi wants to lean into these things. Okay, what's going on with me? Do I have issues around authority? Let's say it's male bosses. Do I have issues with men who are misogynist and patriarchal? Now, remember, I'm not saying that the world and its people are oftentimes very wrong. They are. But if I react and lose my serenity, that's my problem. So all of these things in the unconscious come up and are creating our world. Now, we also live in a group mind. So, for example, No one here did the sankalpa, I'm going to create COVID. Nobody did that. But it's happening to humanity. Why? Well, there's probably all sorts of things as a collective species that we've done. The way we treat animals, overcrowding, no population control, ways in which we've damaged environments. And to some degree, we all unconsciously participate in that. So there's no blame here. No blame. Nobody's bad or evil. And most of these sankalpas are unconscious. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Very good question. Very good question.
Jim,
Yes.
to follow up on that, what you're saying is there's some kalpas, deeply rooted things, or perhaps you've called them prarabdha in the past.
Prarabdha is the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And and you're saying from this is that you can replace them with more positive ones, auspicious ones. Like I want to know, like, what is the most practical teaching out of?
Well, I will tell you what I had to do this weekend.
Okay.
So I was asked to sing at my old church job. Just a little short psalm, 3 minutes. So I spent the time memorizing, and at 73, memorizing doesn't come as easily. I practiced so the voice was limber and working. Also doesn't happen easily at 73. The Lord has a sankalpa called aging. It's not a whole lot I can do about that one, you know. But as I was here in the afternoon, all of a sudden I had an upset stomach and had to go to the toilet like for about 2 hours. And I'm laughing because the body doesn't lie. Guess who had performance anxiety? Yeah. So it's there and I know it. So I'm just present to it. You know, it's all going to be fine. God's in charge. I know this. So I get there, and during the rehearsal, there was an upset. And all the old issues that I've had for 50 years as a singer. There was some old Barnacle still in there. Came up, agitated my mind. I saw it. Sang my piece, I did okay. But then during the rest of the service, the mass, my mind was okay, I know what you are. In meditation, I don't believe it. And then when I got home, and I said, I'm just going to burn some of this stuff out, you know. So I had a long meditation, and as that stuff comes up, you know, you don't pretend that it's not there. What you want to do is not get involved in the theme of it. And if your mind is like mine, those things, it's like they repeat.
Yes.
They repeat.
Yes, they do.
So what do? I don't like Papa to sing like this. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om. With the firm knowledge, it's only a mind state and it will pass. Now, it's not necessarily instantaneous. I worked on burning that up the tapas most of the day yesterday.
Wow.
But what I don't do is run from it, and I don't try to fix it. I don't spend all my time on the phone. Do you know what happened? You know, or venting. I have to tell you how unhappy I am. You know, and when I can remember so and so laughed at me and did it, you know, all that kind of mishigas. And I don't believe it, even though it doesn't stop instantly. It's not like taking a pill. But what I do know, if I do what I call fixing behavior, eat chocolate,
Yeah. Oh,
you know, entertain myself, there's some value in that. But if you're willing to do the tapas, why not finish it? Be present to it. This does not belong to me. I am Chilakash, the space of consciousness. Not these silly thoughts. They're not real, even though they're powerful and repetitive.
Mhm.
Now, that's what I did yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So is that useful?
That's very useful to me. I can relate to the example.
Now, I was quite humble. I'm a yogi. I got bushwhacked by an old barnacle. I call them a barnacle, you know, like barnacles that are on boats and things in the ocean. An old piece of something that I thought I dealt with years ago. Well, there's a piece of it still there. But first, you don't take it as real. You know what it is. It's back to what we were talking about earlier. The yogi is not afraid to look at her mind. I'm not my mind. Why should I be upset about it? Comes up, do the practice. But if, on the other hand, I get caught in the repetition and run the story, they did this to me. Don't they know who I am? I am a victim of the world. And it just gets more solid, just gets more like concrete.
You did not go causation hunting during this.
There's no point. I mean, if you need to know the cause, the Lord will reveal it. But understanding is the booby prize. You can go to therapy and know, why do I react when somebody does X, Y, or Z? Oh, it's because of your mother. It's because of your grandfather. It's because of, you know, a sibling who was mean to you. Well, now you know why, but it doesn't fix it. As long as we continue to think it's real, and as long as we get caught in those repetitive samskaras, and the more we dwell in it, the more miserable we become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And you don't need to know the cause. If you need to know the cause, the Lord will reveal it. But my suspicion, whatever it was that made you unhappy this week, this is not a new feeling.
It's not.
Yeah. And once we understand this law of sankalpa, that it's been my unconscious vasanas, my unconscious samskaras that are largely determinative about my experience of the world. And we do what we can. What do we do? Well, first of all, if I'm in the wrong, clean it up. That's one of the easiest and best things we can do. If I've hurt somebody's feelings, if I've been mean or unkind, apologize. Try not to do it again. One of the stupidest things that I hear from people, so and so and I aren't speaking to each other. That is so stupid. What you're saying is, I have an issue and I'm completely unwilling to deal with it. That's what you just said. All right, your choice. Don't worry, if they get hit by a bus, somebody else will come along and you'll have the same interaction. Because look, where's the causation? The causation is within me. Sankalpa. So you are Chidakash, the space of consciousness. All this world is Lila. Comes about as the play of the infinite. And by virtue of my own sankalpa, to a large degree, I create my experience of it. Any thoughts on this? Did you have a question, Uma?
How is unconsciousness connected with consciousness?
Well, unconscious is more of a psychological term. In that sense, we mean these sanskaras, these vasanas, things we've experienced in the world which go into the part of the mind that we don't have direct access to. That's why we call it unconscious or subconscious. When we say consciousness, have to understand how we're using it. In the West, we would say states of consciousness. You know, they have a sattvic state of consciousness, or we would say they are caught up in self-pity. That's their state of consciousness. So we're not using consciousness when we're talking about the absolute in the same way. So there's the content of awareness, and then the eternal background, the substrate. So, for example, we could use the word awareness to say substratum. And we could say states of consciousness, unconscious, as chitta, as opposed to chit, the background. Does that make it a little clearer? Good question.
Jim, going back to what you were saying around if you have a problem, deal with it. How do you distinguish like taking action on something that is bothering you from a fixing behavior?
Well, you will intuitively know whether or not the action you're taking is avoidance and running away. Let me give you again a personal example. So this performance anxiety that afflicted me on Saturday is an old friend. And I can remember going back 50 years when I was living in San Diego And there was a local Italian restaurant, and young singers could come and sing arias. And I went there, and I was only going to sing a little Italian art song. I remember what it was. It was Amarilli mia bella. And I got up, and I was so scared and nervous, I could barely breathe. My legs were shaking. And I got off the podium, the platform, the stage, and I said, this is too painful. I'm just never going to sing again. That's phony renunciation. Because I love to sing. It's one of the things the Lord has gifted me to do. So real renunciation is to continue to sing and move through the fear, move through the performance anxiety. It's much harder. Now, I'm 73. I have had to renounce singing opera. I'm too old. The voice just won't do it. Supposed to sing the Ave Maria at my niece's wedding in September of next year. I don't know, I have my standards. I won't sing it if I can't sing it well. But that's a little different. That's also acceptance. The Lord has said, you're 73. You should probably quit performing in public pretty much when you're in your 60s. Some people, I did okay. But that's not the Schubert Ave Maria. It's a much easier song. So yes, we do have to let things go in life. Things that we may have loved. And let's say you are in a job and it's a dysfunctional job and the management is just, they're not doing a good job. They don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they're unethical. Should you stay if it bothers you? Well, my advice is, first of all, get yourself still and quiet so you can really see. Don't leave the job out of anger. And then ask your intuition, is this where I'm supposed to be, Lord? Where do you want me? For all you know, the Lord may want you there to bring light to that situation, but it may be time to leave. You don't want to stay because, I need the money. If I quit this job, I'll be broke and be a bag lady. No. That's a wrong reason to stay. So only you can work some of these things out. You have to be intuitive. But no, there's no virtue in staying in an abusive situation. But I don't have to be upset because other people are behaving badly. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Good question. All right, Ganesh, would you read the English of that verse again? We got a little bit off topic and then we'll go on to the next one.
If you will attain fixity in that space of consciousness, having cast off all thoughts, you will then attain to that true principle or state, which is of the nature of the whole without doubt.
So what are we to do? Tune up the mind. Practice unknowing. How? By not believing. It's deep introversion. this abidance in the self, this fixity in consciousness. From this very sattvic state. Oh, I am the grounded being. Aham Brahmasmi. So this is what is required of us, to give up all sankalpa. Here, sankalpa can also mean I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. The idea of yearning, longing, split. Next verse.
Atyanta bhava sampatya chakataschaitatapyate ityukta sahasa lila nirvikalpa samadhibhak. By the accomplishment of the complete non-existence of the world, her impressions of the world also, the state is reached. Leela, who was told thus, all at once experienced the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, the yogic state of absolute consciousness, and there is no distinction of the knower, the known, and the knowing.
So the scriptures extol nirvikalpa samadhi. Let's pull this apart. Samadhi. That's the way I like to do the etymology. Sama, sameness. The mind. Perfect equanimity of mind. Nirnis means without. Vikalpa, perturbation. Absolute quiescence of mind without any perturbations, without any thought. Where the distinction between knower, knowing, and known. Oh, Jim, that's easy. I do that all the time. I call it sleep. In deep sleep, the distinction between knower, knowing, and known is gone. But the mind is still covered by ignorance. So in samadhi, we are fully awake. Now, this is an important point. Do not try to chase samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi as a goal. We've been dealing with this in Tripura Rahasya. Technically speaking, any time, any moment, the mind is free from vimarsha, deliberation, thoughts. That's samadhi. Instead, focus your attention on who am I? Focus your attention on aham brahmasmi, I am Brahma. Now I'll tell you why. We have two great images in the literature. I'm sure you've seen them many, many times. One is snake and the rope, Raju Sarpa. The other is mirage waters in the desert. Snake in the rope is like the classic understanding of nirvikalpa samadhi, meaning I see the snake, oh, I examine and I say, oh, it's not really a snake, it's a rope. In that metaphor, once I realize the rope, the snake is no longer available for perception. I no longer see a snake. So when the mind thunders to a stop, the individuality disappears and the world disappears. When the mind returns from samadhi, it goes, oh, I get it. There's nobody here. It's shunyata. The world is like a dream. That aha moment, pratyabhinyana, the recognition of my true nature. The other great metaphor is mirage waters in the desert. Driving through the desert, and all of a sudden you see a huge lake ahead of you. Oh my gosh, I've got to find a way to get off the highway because it's flooded. There must have been an irrigation pipe that broke or something. You slow down and you continue to keep driving. Then all of a sudden you see that the lake keeps receding as you're driving. And you go, oh, there's no water there. It's a mirage. It's heat waves off the desert. Now, you have disappeared the water, but your senses continue to report to you what looks like water. So for the woman of wisdom, once she knows all this is Leela, my senses report to me a world of name and form, but my knowledge, sarvam kalvidam brahma, all this is verily Brahman. So here, the story is using the classic version of Nirvikalpa. All this is explained to Leela because of the presence of the goddess. She goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, realizes the truth that she's Chidakash, the space of consciousness. For you and me, we may need to do some abhyasa, some practice. This is a story. All right, next one, next verse.
Samtyajyatha swakam deham anta karanapanjaram tadarsha khastha bhartaram asthane bahurajake. Then, having abandoned her own body, which is the cage of the inner organs, mind, intellect, ego, and the conscious stuff on which they're based, designated as manas, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta, respectively, and established in space, she saw her husband in an assembly of a great number of kings.
So, after her nirvikalpa samadhi, she has an image appear. Her subtle body goes to this assembly. What is the subtle body? 19 gates, 5 organs of action, eyes, ears, nose, tongue. No, action, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. 5 organs of knowledge, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Prana, the energy that motivates those. Manas, the mind. Buddhi, the intellect. Chitta, the focusing power, the function of memory, the stuff of the mind itself, and ahankara, and also the vasanas. In our classic understanding of reincarnation, this is what moves from physical body to physical body. You run around in a dream in your subtle body. Some people gain conscious control of this, and they're able to do what they call in Western mysticism astral projection. They go into meditation, they can leave their physical body and go to some other location or some other realm, some other loka. You don't need to acquire these things. Those are just cities. Point is, you have a subtle body as well as a gross body. Sukshma sharira as opposed to the stula sharira. Here they're using the term antakarana, which literally just means inner equipment. So she leaves her physical body, and now she's there and she sees a hall, assemblage. Let's see what she sees there. Going on.
Simhasana samarudham praknya jarasonjitam. Simhasana samarudham praktanya jarasojhitam virashta varsham bhubalam drishtva vismayam yayau. Having seen the king seated on a throne with his former infirmity or old age, abandoned and 16 years of age, she was surprised.
So she's in her subtle body. She goes to this assemblage, and there's Padma. And he's his young, virile self. He's 16. Just like he was when she married him. I'll do that. Let's see, going on.
Nijanta puramagatya devim sasmara bhakti prishta devi tada praha sargasva bhranti matratam. Having come to her inner chambers, she thought of the goddess with devotion. The goddess was questioned, told her of the mere delusion of creation.
Yes. So she goes to a chamber and she propitiates the goddess and she says, I don't understand this. And the goddess is going to explain to her the mere delusion of creation. And I think this is a good place to start. Any thoughts on anything we've covered so far? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Before we leave, if you want to explore and play with this idea of sankalpa, if you make a sankalpa, it's not about going, I'm going to will this into existence. What that does is actually it's a psychic isometric, one part of your mind fighting against another part of your mind. The sankalpa is most powerful when your mind is most peaceful. And the most powerful of sankalpas is when I surrender my investment in anything and I let the divine will come through me. The Master Jesus said it this way: my Father always hears me because I do his will. So if we give up an investment, and it should be this way, it can't be that way, we just get still. It's deep understanding that divine intelligence is in charge of everything. Right. And that idea comes. There's no sense of effort. It's annoying. Confidence. So, for example, if you have a project at work, well, it's just, okay, this is just a knowing. It's all going to get done. Divine guidance is in charge. Divine intelligence is in charge. Divine power is there. I'm going to intuitively know what to do and when to do it. Fall into that divine mind, the mind of God. All right, that's all. Thank you.